How is it going, Bears fans? Welcome back to another episode of Beared Down Uncut, the show where we talk everything Bears every day of the week. Today, in episode number 132 of Uncut, we are back once again talking about a very disgruntled player in Chicago. That is Anthony Miller. We're going to be breaking down Miller's future in Chicago following some reports that he is looking to be traded, or actually the Bears are looking to trade him. And talk about what type of draft capital that they could receive for him, and also some possible receivers the Bears could try and pick up to replace him. Guys, before I introduce myself and my co-host, I would like to say we're trying to get back posting each and every day, so do us a favor. If you are new to the channel, if you're new to either of the podcasting platforms and want Bears content every day of the week, do us a favor. Drop a like and subscribe. We're going to give you guys content each and every day, trying to get back on it consistently. I am your host, Chris Maltby, though. Today, I am joined on the right of me by both of my co-hosts, Parth and Jaylen McClinton. Fellas, happy Wednesday, hump day. Getting through the week a little bit. How are you guys doing?
Doing pretty good. And it's midday. Excited to watch the White Sox today. At least it's at 4 o'clock. I've been staying up till like 2 a.m. basically this whole entire West Coast series they've been on. I mean, I live in Indiana, so we got the Eastern time too, so it's horrible. But, you know, that's what us diehards fans do. So,
Jaylen, Bulls, 2 wins in a row. Not a bad look at all. How are you doing, buddy? I think you're muted.
My fault today.
No worries.
I said they're meshing well. Vucevic dropped 32 and 17 yesterday. It's amazing having a dominant center that can put up 32 points and 17 rebounds. I don't remember the last time we had a type of center like that. So that definitely feels good. They play tomorrow. This is definitely gonna be the hard. What I think we had like 21 games left in the basketball season, and we're sitting at the 10th seed. So we're in the play-in tournament, but we're definitely trying to push for a playoff spot.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be nice to see the Bulls get in. Cubs are doing pretty good, I'd say so. I think they're 3-2 or something like that. So pretty solid start to the season for both the Cubs and the White Sox. So don't think we can complain whatsoever. Let's get into it. Anthony Miller, boys, this is an interesting one because it kind of happened during the time that we took off. It happened right around when the Andy Dalton stuff happened. As well as like when Kyle Fuller news was coming out, Akeem Hicks news was coming out. So it was a little overshadowed by bigger news. But Adam Schefter reported just a couple of weeks ago that the Bears were actively looking to move on from Miller. They were looking to trade him. So let's start a little bit by talking about him and how his time in Chicago has played out. He obviously was a second-round pick out of Memphis in 2018. Came into Chicago his first season, really showed out. Had a very solid rookie season, 33 receptions, 423 yards, 12.8 yards per catch with 7 touchdowns. He's only got 11 career touchdowns. It's had 2 each the last 2 years. 656 receiving yards in 2019. Looked like things were coming upwards towards a big burst in 2020. A lot of people were hoping that he was going to break out, but that simply just didn't happen. He had 49 receptions, the second best of his career, 485 receiving yards. Sorry, it looked like 65 on my cracked phone. And only 2 touchdowns. And we obviously know how the season played out for Miller. The end of the year was not good at all. Punched Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in that game against the Saints and got ejected, got himself fined. So, Parth, I'm going to start with you. We know it's been up and down for Miller throughout his time in Chicago. We've seen the highs. We've seen the lows. Very similar to Mitchell Trubisky in my case. We've also seen his ego be a problem at some point. Him being emotional, both for the good and for the bad. So what do you think? Has Anthony Miller's time in Chicago been a letdown in your opinion?
I would say so. I had high expectations for him this year. He was going to be a wide receiver too coming out of the season, especially that week 1 game he had against Detroit. We were like super pumped. Mitch Trubisky and him had that connection that game, and we knew that those two were something special. At times, again, like they both are up and down players, so that was the big question with them. But Anthony Miller, too many downs than upsides in my opinion. Like you've mentioned, he gets emotional at times. He's got into a couple scuffles and fights to get himself kicked out of games, which is not a good look. He's had some drop issues as well, which is frustrating to see because he's got a lot of talent. And at this point, I think I was one who was very vocal on who to say to get rid of him early on in the season too. I think after the Giants game, the second week, I was pretty pissed off at him, especially after those 2 drops he had. And I was one to say, if this keeps happening, I could see him fall down in the depth chart. And we saw that. Darnell Mooney took over, and I don't think there's any going back.
Yeah, and we'll talk about whether or not the Bears should move on from him a little bit later. But I got to go ahead and agree with you. I do think he's been a little bit of a letdown. You mentioned the drop issues, but we've seen good games from him. We saw the game against Detroit. We saw the game-winning touchdown 2 weeks later in Atlanta. And then we saw basically radio silence the rest of the season as Darnell Mooney's role increased as he became wide receiver number 2 in his first year in Chicago. So, Anthony Miller has been up and down throughout his career. I agree with you on the head, Parth. I think it's been more bad than good. It doesn't really shock me that the Bears are looking to move on from him and have been for a while. I think if it happens, maybe it happens closer to the draft or possibly sometime this offseason if they look to cut him in camp. But I'm not entirely sure that he'll be a Bear in 2021. I don't think you can rule it out. I don't think you can rule it in. But the Bears having suspicions about moving him does not surprise me whatsoever because I do think his time in Chicago has definitely been a letdown. Jaylen, you've been someone who has been a fan of Anthony Miller in the past. You've supported him a decent bit. You've also been one to give him slack where it's needed. So what do you think? Has his time in Chicago been a letdown?
This year, definitely. His first 2 seasons, not at all. His rookie season came in and led the team in touchdowns with 7, and it could potentially been more. Him and Mitchell missed on a lot of wide open passes in his rookie season. Last year he started off slow, but on the second half of the season he had 400 yards in the last 6 games. And he was our second leading receiver. So his first 2 years, not at all. I know at the beginning of the off season or beginning of last season. I'm trying to say at the start of the last season, I had very high hopes that he could be potentially flirting with close to 1,000 yards, and we seen him get demoted by a 5th round draft pick. So this year was definitely disappointing. He started off hot. He had that game-winning touchdown against Detroit, went cold against New York, and then had another one against Atlanta. So, but this season has definitely been disappointing. We traded up for him in the second round and give up a future second, and he's disappointed this season. So I'm not surprised that we're looking to get rid of him and stuff like this, especially because of his behavior issues.
Yeah. It doesn't really shock me at all. The behavioral issues have become quite the topic in Chicago. I remember George McCaskey in that first off-season press conference said something along the lines of we just can't tolerate that type of behavior whatsoever. And there were a couple of murmurs that the McCaskies wanted him and possibly Javon Williams gone. So moving on to that, let's discuss this next one. Should the Bears look to move on? Parth, let's start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are a lot of options in the wide receiver in this draft class that the Bears can look at. I think if we're going to have a new quarterback, might as well just bring in new pieces around him. I think Anthony Miller's time in Chicago is basically over.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and agree with you. I do think the Bears should look to move on and get whatever type of capital they can get back for him. I'm not sure if it'll be a lot. The one thing I can still positively say about Miller is we've seen the flashes for sure. We know the potential's there. That might be good bait for another team. It should be interesting to see how this plays out, but I don't think he's a Bear in 2021. I don't think you can rule it out, but I just think based on how things ended in 2020 and how we've seen things play out in 2021, I think it's heading that way. So I do think it'll be interesting to see what happens, but I do think the Bears should move on, and it seems like they're actively pursuing that. So, Jaylen, I'm going to pass it along to you. Are we consensus here? Do you think the Bears should look to move on from Anthony Miller this offseason?
It's going to be hard for me to say because, like I said, I've always been a big fan of Anthony Miller. I really wanted him coming out the draft in 2018, other than Calvin Ridley. But, if we can get something for him, I wouldn't be surprised if we were, looking to trade him, especially if we can get something. If we can get a 6th round draft pick, 5th round draft pick out of someone who disappointed this season, I'm definitely taking that deal, especially because we're at the same time we're trying to rebuild the team, we're retooling it. So, definitely, if we can get something out of it, I would definitely take it. And we also have, young receivers behind him. I think Riley really we drafted him in the same draft classes. Riley really has barely got on the field in his first 2 seasons. So who knows?
Yeah, and that should definitely be interesting to see what happens with Riley Ridley and those type of guys, because we've seen stuff from them as well, but it hasn't been too promising as well. So it seems like the Bears almost at some point need to decide that they need to flush in a couple new receivers with the draft capital that they have. Before we end this one off, guys, let's talk a little bit about this. Just simply, I mean, what kind of draft capital, Parth, what kind of draft capital do you think the Bears could end up receiving for Miller? Seems like it'd probably end up being like a 6th, 7th round pick at the best. But what type of draft capital do you think the Bears could receive? And honestly, would you take absolutely anything?
Yeah, I would probably take anything at this point, but a 5th, 6th, or 7th is probably receivable. I think you can get a 5th out of him. There is potential in him. I think a lot of teams do see that. At the end of the day, he was putting up some big numbers at times. But again, it's going to be tough, especially because of his character issues, I think.
Yeah, I think 6th, 7th round is probably realistic in what's eventually going to happen. Jaylen, what type of draft capital do you think the Bears can end up receiving for this guy?
Like you guys said, if they really are looking to trade him, anything we can get out of him. He's still young. I think he's like 25. I know we share the same birthday, so I know he's turning like 26 this year. So I guess he's still considerably young for a wide receiver. He still has 1 year left on his rookie contract, and I guess you could say for a 7th round draft pick, if he plays well, you got him for dirt cheap, and you look to extend him. If he plays bad, well, he's only here for 1 year, so you don't have to take away any money the year after this. So I definitely, if you're looking looking from the outside looking in, any team that sees a young receiver who's put up numbers, he's not like he hasn't got on the field, and when he's been a complete bum. That's not the case at all with Anthony. He was a 2nd round pick for a reason. So
yep.
Definitely a low risk, high reward type of guy.
Yeah, and it should be interesting to see how this plays out, because I could see why another team would want to take a chance on him. I could see why the Bears would want to take another chance on him. So his future in Chicago is definitely up in the air, but we shall see. I need to get some more natural light next time. When I turn my head this way, you can only see half my face, but I'll work on it. The windows here, it feels like I'm in prison and I live in a fraternity, but it's okay. We'll figure it out for the next one. But thank you guys so much for tuning into episode number 132 of Uncut. Once again, if you guys want Bears content every day of the week, wherever you are listening, do us a favor, follow, like, and subscribe. If you want more content from us, head over to our website, beareddown.com. We're posting columns, articles, and blogs, trying to get back into some sort of consistency over on our website, as we've taken a couple of months, honestly, off there as well, but we're trying to ramp things back up for the draft, so be sure to go check out our website. It's definitely worth taking a look at. If you would like to find the podcast on social media, you can find it at Beared Down on Instagram and Twitter. It's a great way to see what type of guests we're having on, as well as other things such as giveaways that we do a couple of times throughout the year. Free to enter. We want to give back to you guys as much as possible. You guys can also help us decide what to record on there. So if you ever have any suggestions for us, please be sure to hit up our social media at Beared Down on Instagram and Twitter. And finally, you can find the links to all of our social media pages down in the description, all of our personal stuff. Be sure to go check it out. You can see our thoughts on the entire National Football League, as well as the entirety of Chicago sports. So be sure to go check out all of our Instagram and Twitter pages, especially Twitter, as Parth would reiterate down below in the description. Parth Shaw, Jaylen McClinton, feels good doing this consistently again, 2 days in a row. I guess we're already recording more consistently than Anthony Miller can catch balls. But any last words before we sign out here?
Yeah, I miss recording. I love doing this every day of the week. Let's get back on it. And yeah, let's hope that the Bears make some moves. I think there are a lot of good wide receivers in the draft. I think that Elijah Moore would be my favorite target out of Ole Miss. Big body slot would be a great replacement. There are a lot of other pieces and draft talent out there. But it'll be interesting to see what Pace wants to do.
Yeah, same here. I wouldn't be surprised if we took a wide receiver in the first, if we traded back or something like that. So, other than that, Bear Down. Like I said, it feels good to be back to consistently posting, especially since the draft is 3 weeks away. Hopefully we can do something with that, like a stream or something, because we finally have a 1st round pick again for right now. So can't wait.
Yeah, things are starting to heat up here. Draft just around the corner. It's going to be here before we know it. So we're going to keep you guys posted with content each and every day, doing what we love. Guys, it's been a pleasure to be your host. Once again, my name is Chris Malby. And Bears fans, as always, do us a favor and stay safe and bear down. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.